find this place or we'll be late.
Make a left on Astrology Avenue. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant right. It should be right here at 444 Spirit Way. Oh, turn.
It looks like Renee. Yay, we're on time. The James and Kellee Show.
Great, let's start the show. Let's have some joy. Listen to me.
You can count on me, 'cause I will bring you
It's all about joy. Hi, Kellee. Lots of joy.
Yay!
Joy is part of the journey. Journey. Joy is part of the
You're
journey.
right. It is part of the journey. Well, you always
Literally,
bring me joy.
the word journey. You betcha.
You betcha.
Hi, happy. Hi, Kellee. Long time no see.
I know, honey. How was your trip to New York?
It was really. Well, I thought of you a lot because it was very. I'm sure the planets were moving in a certain way. It was really weirdly bizarro, crazy. I just had to go with the flow, as soon as I got to the airport, my handbag broke. As soon as I walked in the door.
I heard
And
you
I went
talk
to the
about
information
that.
desk. I went to the information desk and I said, "Do you have any the luggage stores?" She goes, "No, there are no luggage stores at the airport." I said, "Excuse me?" She goes, "I had a plastic bag for you."
Airports have changed, James.
I ended up with a Brookstone and found one, but it was like, wow. Yeah, it was a weird time. And I sat in a plane I'd never sat in before. It was a newer plane. And the first class was really tiny. And I didn't know how to work any of the TV things. I just didn't know.
I know.
So, yeah, it was
It's
weird.
been a while. Yeah.
And they don't really serve you anymore. In coach, they serve, potato chips. They throw them at people. And first class, at least they open them before they serve them. So that was good.
And you get 2 bags. And they throw the alcohol. You're lucky. Oh
Grab
my
it,
God.
whoa. So yeah, it was wild, and the crowd was interesting. My demonstration was great to be with people, 800 people, and that was
Wow.
really
That's a lot in person. Wow.
a lot in person. And it came out, and the song that the engineer wanted me to send him, which I did, my entrance song, he messed that up because he didn't want to do rehearsal, and I said we need to do rehearsal, and we didn't, and I knew we had to, but he didn't want to, and he said I got this. I said, and I did. But I made it work, and it was upbeat music, and I came out and turned around and fell on the stage because that's what I did. Because I've just collapsed, and people are like,
oh gosh.
And I do that for a very specific reason. We're talking about joy and humor and happiness, and I do that right away to make people say, "Oh, this guy's is he crazy?" Is he funny?" Because they don't have time to think. They always, "Oh, he's just really just being normal and funny and crazy," and it's okay. I can let go of my fear now.
Right. Well, that's really what happens. Because then people are so kind of like, what's happening here? And they can release a lot of fear and be in the present moment with you.
Yeah, the best one of those I did was in New Jersey, and it was about 5 years ago, and it was very cold in New Jersey. It was in February. It was in March, right after a really cold winter, and I was working right near Asbury Park, and it was at a theater that Bruce Springsteen goes to a lot. And the stage manager said, "Well, he sits usually on 105J, whatever." So, and then I looked at the curtain. I said, "Oh, this crowd is really cold, but they're also very much closed down. I thought I got to open them right up."
Right.
So I went out on stage with my usual thing, hello, and I said, "Is Bruce? I heard Bruce Springsteen might be. I love Bruce. Bruce, I love you. It's 1976." And I went off the stage looking for him. "I heard you in J105. Are you here, Bruce?" And Bruce, and I'm looking all over from, "Where are you, Bruce? I don't see you." And I walked all the way around, right around the audience.
Oh my God.
People are like, "Well, this guy's crazy." And then went up on stage. Said, "Okay, Bruce, I guess you're not here." And they were mine. They were just loving it. They laughed. They opened up, and I did that on purpose to change that energy up, to bring it up, and it worked. And it worked.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Oh God.
it's fun doing it. It's fun.
Yeah, it is fun. Well, while you were there in New York, you were right in that eclipse energy. You were just moving into that eclipse energy, which may have
tell me about that, Kellee, because I had some interesting times.
Oh, I can imagine. Well, we are actually in eclipse season right now, and it's for 2 weeks. It really officially began on April 30th, but you could feel the energy the week before, right?
Yeah.
And then this goes, so the first eclipse, the solar eclipse, was April 30th, and they call this period, because the next eclipse is May 15th and 16th, depending on where you're located, right? I know you're
Mhm.
going to get your doggies then. They call this week eclipse season, and it's all about new beginnings, transformations, endings, and it's a really big time in the world for us to look at our road, and we'll have a lot of surprises because this eclipse that was on the 30th of April, it was conjunct Uranus, which is the planet of chaos and surprise. And so there will be on this road for the next couple of weeks a lot of change, a lot of surprise change, but it's all for us to get to where we're supposed to be. So it's a really significant time. But James, that's not all. I mean, if that were it, that's not all, because the
Well,
must.
before you go on, Kelly, before you go on, I have to remember to tell you this to everybody. A friend of mine had a lady come to her house from the Ukraine, just came over from the Ukraine, and she was she came over from the war, and she was an amazing lady. She said that this had to happen to our country because we want to change, and sometimes change has to happen in ways that don't look well, but this is forcing change to happen. So that was really interesting
Interesting.
insight, isn't it?
Well, big insight, and this
Yeah.
is does force change. You know, people get real, like, they don't want to make a change. They don't want to make a move. They have fear or whatever.
Or
The universe
control,
goes,
whatever it might be.
control, whatever. The universe goes, oh, no, 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 no. It's for your growth. Here we go. Kaboom, like this. And
Yeah.
so this is going to be the next 2 weeks are going to be really interesting emotionally. Watch your emotions, because this is a time where things could go haywire, because in the middle of this eclipse season, James, you won't believe this, but I mean, you want to know who has a good sense of humor? The universe, because they put Mercury retrograde in the middle of eclipse season. So that's on May 10th, and
Wow.
it's in Gemini. So if you are a
Oh,
Gemini
wow.
or a Virgo with, or rising Virgo or moon Virgo, or Gemini Virgo or rising, this is going to be a big time for you. It's a big time in the world because Mercury rules communication, it rules travel, it
Sure.
rules our social activities. I mean, there's Gemini, it's big time. And so this Mercury retrograde, will make sure it's actually, even though I'm going to say this, it's a good time to travel for a lot of reasons, but just know, pack your patience, because things will go
Delays.
delays. There'll be haywire because it's also in the middle of these two eclipses. So this is a really powerful time. But there's one more big event. So there are three major events this month: the eclipse on May 16th, 15th, and 16th. And you're getting your puppies on that day. So
I am.
huge day.
I'm giving birth that day. Yes.
Yeah, right. It's that kind of transformation. Okay, that's one. The second one is Mercury retrograde, but the third one is Jupiter going into Aries, also on the 10th of May. So May 10th is a powerful day. So
Wow.
what that means is Jupiter is the biggest planet, and Aries is, it's about
Impulsive.
me. It's impulsive, and when that happens, like, whoa, with Mercury in retrograde, with these eclipses, let me tell you what, your world will be rocked, and things will change and shift as they need to. But watch impulsiveness if you can, because it will affect, all areas. So
Wow.
there you go. We've got busy couple of weeks here.
Yeah. Would that have started already at all, Kelly?
Yes. Oh, absolutely. We're in the shadow of Mercury retrograde right now. Like, for
Yeah.
instance, today, let's see what broke today at my house on the farm. Our toilet, our washing machine, and we have nobody to cut our grass because he quit. 1, 2, 3. That was
I
all
was
within
going
an
to say,
hour, I think.
well, I was just delivered Sunday. My second delivery of, I got about a year now. I've been waiting for a day bed from Pottery Barn.
Yes.
And I got the cushions that they told me today were slip covers, but they're cushions. And I waited for the frame, which they sold separately, which they never said on their website. So they tried it once to deliver it to me, and it was just the frame with no hardware, no manual, just the frame. And that was 2 weeks ago. And I called back, and they took it back, and I said, "Well, please send me the hardware." And it came on Sunday. The frame came, and the same box, and no hardware and no manual, just the
Oh,
frame again.
James, I'm so
So
sorry.
so right now I'm talking, and I wrote a letter to the CEO of Williams Sonoma Pottery Barn, and I said, "I hope you enjoy yourself sleeping at night, looking at your nice property out there in Sonoma," because I know she lives in Sonoma. And I said, "Well, a lot of people are not getting their items like they delivered and paid lots of money for. How can you go to sleep like that?" And this morning, 8 o'clock, I got a phone call from her assistant.
No.
Called me up, and said, we're trying to get this taken care of right away, and we'll see what happens. But they're trying to play hardball, and I'm
I'm
like,
so
you know,
impressed that you did that, and I'm so
you have
impressed they
to.
called you back.
I
Yeah,
mean, I know, but you got to stand up for the consumer because it's consumer
right.
fraud when they're presenting something a certain way
Yeah,
and it isn't that way. They need to be called on it because that's not fair to people. That's
yeah.
just not fair. So, who knows? And then the girl did come back. She goes, well, in order to get this and this to happen, you have to buy this and you have to buy that. And I'm like, you're telling me to buy two more things when the first two things didn't work out? So, Mercury retrograde,
Yeah.
all that eclipse energy, it's all coming
Yep.
together.
It is coming together, and that's why you must develop or have a good sense of humor.
Go with the flow. You got to go with the flow because
Oh,
you have to. I mean,
it's
you can't control the river. The river's going to run. Just
right.
enjoy the waves.
Right. I mean,
It's
you've always
true.
had a great sense of humor. You've always
I've
been
always had my mother. It's from my
yeah,
mother's side, and I was going to be a sitcom writer because I'm funny.
you're
And
hysterical.
and I thought about and I actually have a broadcasting degree, and I was working at the show Grease on Broadway, which is right now celebrating the 50th anniversary. Actually, tonight it's Sardi's, which I would be at if I wasn't
You and I have
here.
been to Sardi's.
And you and I have been to Sardi's. That's right.
Yes.
And yeah, so they're celebrating that, and I quit Broadway to get my degree in broadcasting. So I moved in to San Francisco State, got a broadcasting degree, moved to LA to be a sitcom writer, and the rest is all history. I met an agent who brought me to a medium, and the rest is all history, as they say. But I'm still funny.
It's
So I
hysterical.
find
Yeah.
humor gets me out of most things. But when there are certain things that hurt children, that gets me.
Yeah,
I
of
can't laugh at
course.
that,
Yeah.
and that really hurts me. And
Right.
animals, and
Oh,
animals.
yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
that just yeah, how humans treat one another sometimes is, you can't laugh at that because it's just you just cry. You cry more than
Right.
laugh for that. But
Right.
I
That's
laugh
so
a lot.
true.
But it's funny in the work that I do. People think it's very serious, and I try to make it as light as possible because there is no when you realize there's no death, there's only light. There's only happiness. There's no
Yeah.
death. There's no limitation. We're with our loved ones are more with us now when they're out of the body than in the body. So when
Right.
people realize that, they're much happier, and it's a happy thing that I think death is a
Well,
good thing. To me.
and as a medium, as a practicing medium, every day when I work with people, I always want to put some light and humor into something because the soul on the other side and the soul here opens up and everybody opens up and it just is an easier way for me to get into this with work with the soul.
And our natural vibration is love, Kelly. And the
Yeah.
fastest way to get to love is laughter and joy, elements to love. And you
Yeah.
raise the frequency of vibration when you laugh. You raise that energy up to that point. I always have dancing in my workshops
Yeah.
and even
Always. Yeah.
always because and people love it. At first, people like think, oh, and like the guys or some gals are hanging out in the side of the room, and I grab them. Come on inside here, let's go, because everybody wants love. Everybody wants
Right.
joy. And
Right.
just like, get out of yourself and let's enjoy everybody as
Right.
one.
I was telling you earlier, I had a couple of people that have said to me, I can't see you. I can't see you because you have too much energy. You're too happy. I can't see you. And I always go, oh, because I in therapy, you're actually supposed to meet them where they are. But I have trouble with that. I mean, listen, obviously, when it's serious, I'm very serious. But sometimes when you work with somebody who's so damn negative that you literally almost you can't you want to start laughing because it's so insane when somebody is so negative.
Yeah.
I
I
mean, it's
can't be
like,
around that anymore. I refuse
oh,
to be around that anymore. I refuse to be around that. I refuse to be around people that are not genuine.
right,
I refuse to. I was thinking about it some people that were friends, and because I don't put up with that anymore. I just don't. Life is too
right.
short.
Life's too
You know.
short. Life's
Yeah.
too short. But I thought this was so funny. Renee, can you put up this picture we have? And this is from Renee Hounsel. And Renee, we love you for sending this. We just thought this was
Thanks, Renee.
so
That's great,
funny.
Renee.
I think she sent this today. She said, just believe it. Water and oil cannot be mixed. Which I love that because that's so accurate. If I view that in terms of people, I just think that's sometimes water and oil just can't mix.
People try so hard, don't they, to make it
Tries
mix, and it just
so
doesn't.
hard.
It,
And that
it,
cracks me up.
yeah. Well,
That's funny.
the one thing with readings that crack me up too, it's like you'll say, well, here are the directions. If I say that Aunt Sadie, 67, died of a heart attack,
Yeah.
please don't stand up if it's your Uncle Sam who is still alive. I mean, that's two very different things.
It is
Humans
so
crack me
true.
up. Humans do crack me up.
Oh my God.
Oh, Anne
Ann Buffington, what's the difference between crocodiles and alligators? One will see you after a while, while the other will see you later. That's very clever.
That's pretty good, Anne. Very
I
good.
like that, Ann. That's very
Love
good.
I
Oh my
love
gosh.
that.
I love this. I have a quote from a Zen master, James, and he says, "Nothing is left to you at this moment but to have a good laugh."
Oh, that's great. That's great.
But I mean,
Great.
the Dalai Lama laughs.
Yeah, the dilemma. I was just invited to it's funny, I was just invited to be around him at an audience with to have an audience with him, and, I have to turn it down because I have doggies that I might just
So,
straight down the holiness, well, I have doggies, I got it, so
oh
but,
my God.
I have a friend of mine who, we hang out a lot with, and part of the reason we hang out is because we both like to have fun. And we dress in weird costumes and we have fun giggle time and it's just a lot of fun and like to be not taking things so seriously because we're all going to get out of this stuff. We really are. We shouldn't take this all so seriously. We
Right,
really shouldn't. We're going to get out of this stuff. This is all just illusion. So don't
right,
take it all so seriously. What we really take seriously is love, loving one another, how you care for each other, the thoughts that you send out, the energy you give, how you design your life and that of others. How do you make the world a better place? That's
right.
really what we want to do.
Everything. Valerie Smothers says here, she says, if you can't find humor in everyday life, then it will be a long, boring life.
So
That
true,
is the
Valerie.
truth,
So
Valerie.
true. I mean,
Oh
gosh,
my God.
you gotta find some laugh at everything, and not laugh at people, but laugh with people. It's a really big
Right.
difference.
Oh, that's so true. And so, and I want there's a book, an interesting book called Ha, and it's
Mm,
by cognitive neuroscientist Scott Weems. And he says this about humor. He said, "My first thought when I think about humor, and remember, he's a cognitive neuroscientist. So, my first thought when I think about humor is it's a great way for us to have evolved so we don't have to hit each other with sticks."
it's great.
Okay,
Great.
he hasn't met my siblings. You know,
That's
put
great.
down that stick. You
That's
can't
great.
hit each other. Oh my God. And here's the other thing he says, which is so true. He says human beings aren't meant to be scared and serious all the time.
Not at all. Not at all. And when someone confronts you that way, and they're just like, ah, and now I do it all the time. When someone ever confronts me, and that's I haven't been out of the house a lot, but I'm starting to get out now. Um, I was driving to my Pilates class once, and this street down the street is a country street, I guess, and there's a couple of walking, and I was going not going fast. I was going about 30 miles an hour down the road, and this man for no reason goes like slow down, and I went, and he was really angry. And I always think you have to turn that energy around to positivity. So as I went close to him, I went, hi.
What they do.
They don't know what to do. And then if you're on road rage with people, and they get well, I've had people the finger with me, the
Oh
finger.
yeah.
I go, clap, I go.
I've had people do that to me, James, and I don't realize it's happening. And I'll have people in my car go, they just flipped you off, and they did, and that makes me laugh.
Or I'll just wave at them. Hi.
Oops. Oh well. Oh my gosh.
No
So
kisses.
comedy and laughter can be healing. So we know it can be healing, and it's why it's healing is because it stimulates the brain to
Endorphins.
release endorphins, and endorphins make us feel really good.
It's true.
Renee Hounsell says, I was crying laughing with my reading from Kellee. Oh, when I realized my husband that came through heard me say 3 days before he would come through in a grass skirt and coconut shells. It made my year. Well, what happened is I was doing a reading for her and I said, he's talking about Hawaii, but he's talking about I don't know, what does this mean? A grass skirt.
That's great.
That's something, right? Oh my gosh, I love this. Chris Zagalo says Norman Cousins, who I loved, he wrote a book, The Anatomy of an Illness, and he cured himself from a life-threatening disease by laughing. It reduces inflammation and ignites the healing system. He sure did. And he actually helped my mother when she had cancer the first time because we laughed all the time. And we even laughed through the cancer because it was just there was nothing else. We were in a position we had to laugh, frankly. And Norman Cousins really helped a lot of people with that, James, with that book.
I'm sorry about that. Yeah, and I remember that there were Laurel and Hardy movies that I heard this years ago that people were in hospital. They used to play comedies like silent movies and Laurel and Hardy and Keystone Cops to make them feel better, to bring out the healing aspects. And that's what it does. It brings in a healing aspect. Think about it. It brings the vibration up to love. Love's our natural environment and vibration.
Right.
So that makes total sense. And you used to
Right.
see clowns in the hospitals a lot. I remember I was like 9 years old, and I was in a hospital. They used to have clowns come into the hospital and with the kids' wards. Kids get tonsils out, and I remember that. And that, I don't know if they still do that, have clowns going around, but that worked. That's great.
Probably not. If it were me, no, no clown.
There was Dr. Patches. Remember Dr. Patches that Robin
No,
Williams
I
used
don't
out?
remember Dr. Patches. I remember Bozo, but I don't remember Dr.
Bozo
Patches.
the clown. Yes, I used to watch that. Yes, Bozo. Yes, all the
Oh my
time.
God. So
Laughing is much better than crying, isn't it?
I have to, I'm going to tell you a really bizarre story, but I'll share this with you, James. But
Okay, Kelly.
when my mother was dying, I mean, listen, it was extremely serious. My mother is
I
dying.
remember.
You
Sure.
remember? I mean, it's
Yeah,
the last
of course.
moments, and it's really awful and everything you can imagine. And see, I'm actually laughing now because it was so insane. We had a worker that came, a hospice worker that came. We didn't know this woman, and she was there at the last 3 hours, the last 2 hours, and she came in, and she all we wanted her to do was just make my mom comfortable, okay? And instead, she looks up, and we're all, around my mom, and my mother is dying. And she looks up and she says, I am a singer and a dancer and an artist and a model, and I'm going to sing for you. And we were like, what did she just say? And then she blasts out some oddball song. And my sister looks at me and she went for her throat. It was terrible. It was one of those most bizarre things ever. And needless to say, the woman left and my mom died. And that was, it was the weirdest moment, but I makes me laugh. And I have to think that the universe had to have something to do with this because
It's-
it cracked me up on so many dark levels. I mean, that's dark sense of humor
And
there.
they want us to laugh. They do want us to
Yeah.
laugh. Even the spirit, when they pass out of the body, they want us to laugh. They really do. I think I might have told the story here before. If I didn't, if I did, forgive me, but I'm gonna have to say it again because it was pretty funny. When my friend Olivia passed over, and she was a good friend of mine. She was 82, and she just wanted to leave the body because she was really not doing well. And she completed suicide. She went on her way, and I think she took fentanyl. Believe it or not, I don't know how. 'Cause for a year, she asked me, "Can I get something for her?" And I'm like, "I don't know how to get you anything." And she was in that generation where I guess it was some association organization, the Black Oak or whatever it was called, that suicide. So anyway, her daughter came up from Australia, and it was 2 days afterwards. I was sitting around the apartment, and the daughter looks at me and she goes, "James, I feel just awful." I said, "Why do you feel awful?" And she said, "Well, I know my mother's favorite drink was her favorite thing was Irish whiskey, and I know that what my mother did right before she died was she went to get a swig of that Irish whiskey with I guess the fentanyl." And she goes, "But I drank it before I left last time I was here. I drank it. I left the empty bottle, and I see that my mother probably went to it, and it was empty, and that was the last thing she did before she died."
Oh my
Oh,
God. See, you have to have a good sense of humor about this, right?
yeah.
Oops.
Whoopsie. Yeah.
She went out laughing.
You were laughing.
That's
Oh, it's terrible.
terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so comedy and laughter and humor causes a shift in your perspective. If you can laugh
Kelly,
about
before you
something,
say that, I also think with shift in perspective, I think it's a shift in the brain. I don't
yes.
know if that's correct or not, but I have a feeling there's some kind of a shift in the cortex. There's something goes on there
Yeah.
chemically. Yeah, I think so.
Well, the
So,
endorphins make allow you to feel better, and then
okay,
that could open up a space in your brain actually to make
yeah,
that shift or see something in a a humorous perspective.
perspective.
I mean, that's going to be help. The other thing is, comedy helps us form a connection with somebody else. We can form a connection with it.
Because you share that moment, you share that laugh. That yeah,
Right. You
yeah.
share that laugh, which is so important. It also, comedy helps us expose the truth and breaks taboos, which, we see comedians talking about that. And you're sitting here going, well, that's pretty accurate, pretty close to the bone there, buddy. But, you know,
I've known my share of comedians. Let me tell you,
yes,
Chelsea Handler and Kathy Griffin. And I've known them personally.
Yeah. Yeah. I knew Gary
And Joan
Shandling
Rivers.
really well, and you knew Joan Rivers, and I knew
Joan was
Gary
the best.
Shandling
I'll
really
tell you,
well.
one of the best people I've ever met in my life. One of the best celebrities. And
Oh,
one of the funniest people, but also very lovely and not mean at all. And by the way, Don Rickles also was a wonderful man. He comes up very, but that was all an act. And same with Joan, it was all an act. Joan was one of the kindest people around.
yeah.
I remember with Joan Rivers, I was doing a book tour, and Joan, we had the same agent. And Joan had to, she had a radio show and she had to interview me, and she wasn't available. She was on a plane flying from Europe. And I think it was a private plane of hers. And she had the decency to call me from, and she, would you mind if I call you from the plane and we do it on that? Would you mind if we do that? I said, that's fine, Joan. So she took the time to do that. And just one of many things that she did. She was really a kind,
So
kind soul.
nice. So
Yeah.
nice.
Love her.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. At that oh. And comedy helps us lighten the heaviness of existential suffering. And that's what I was talking about with my mother. I mean, you've got a beloved person who's passing away. I mean, that's really an existential crisis as happening. And yet I was able for a moment to see the paradox in that, in what was happening around me, and really get a good big
Yeah.
laugh out of it on some level.
It is an experience we all have, this life
Yeah,
experience, but we can't take it all so seriously, because it isn't what is the truth. Truth is, it's an illusion. It's happening, but we're much bigger than that. We are all much bigger than that. So to be
right,
caught up in that heaviness there, yes, we can sense it, but we got to step out of it too, because we don't want to
right.
suffer. I call them
No,
SS, suffering souls. They don't want to be that. Life is about movement, expansion, and
yeah.
that's really what it's about. And laughter helps create that. Humor helps create that, and it helps us laugh at ourselves. Don't take ourselves so
Well,
seriously.
I love what you just said. It helps us with expansion.
Yeah, it does. It certainly
Yeah,
does. It does.
yeah.
Don't take it so seriously. It doesn't mean anything. It really doesn't.
No,
It really doesn't mean a lot. People take
yeah,
themselves so seriously. Don't take yourself so seriously. That's
yeah.
why I get on stage and fall down, because it's like, come on, basic pratfall. Don't take it so seriously. Don't sit there and go, oh, there's a guru. No, no, not me.
Right.
No, you're the guru.
So
No.
Elaine Berman says, I loved Gary Shandling. Was he happy? Well, Gary was complicated. I knew Gary very well. He was complicated. He was the funniest, so funny, so bright, so funny, and so complicated. And as most comedians, I mean, James, you would know this too, that
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
some in person, in a relationship, they're not all that funny.
They're very, no,
They're more
they're very serious.
serious. They're more, it's been my experience with a lot of them that I have known.
I won't name people, but there are some people, well-known comedians that I know that everyone here knows, and
Yeah.
you'd be very shocked to see what they're like personally. Very different than what they appear to be.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would agree with that. Brian Jacoby, my mother just passed. It's a hard one to deal with. Listen, Brian, it is a hard one to deal with. I'm sorry.
it's a hard one to do with, Brian. I'm sorry as well, but I'm going to say something to you, which, and so, of course, the humanness, which you're going to miss. But I've got to tell you this, and the more I live, the more I experience it, and the more when I talk to spirit for 40 years, they're in a better place. They're in a happy place. They left this physical density. Imagine all this gravity being pushed down, and they've released from this meat suit, and they're happy, and they're back to who they naturally are, and they feel limitless, and they're able to be with you more than ever before, and they hear your thoughts, and they hear your prayers, and all they want to know is they're okay, that she's okay, and nothing happens by circumstance. Everybody is met with someone. It's all planned out, even when you think it's accidents. There are no accidents. So she was met. I got to tell you, I know it sounds weird, but I know that she's happy. I know that people that pass out of the body are happier. I've never had one spirit come back. I'm sure Kelly, you would say the same
Oh,
thing.
never.
Say, I miss that body. I miss that.
No. I
Never.
like what you call it,
And
a
we should
meat suit.
celebrate for them. We should celebrate for their exit, because they're happier. So, we
Yeah.
really should celebrate that, because they're in a great, great space, and they can always be around us. They're around us all the time. We as humans are trying to control everything. We don't take the time to listen to them,
Right.
but they're
Right.
all
That
around
is
us.
so true. That's so true. It's it's a tough one
She
though.
wants you to know she's happy, Brian. I know that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. This is a great question. This is from Joanne Wilson. She says, "Why do we laugh sometimes when we want to cry?" I think they're so closely tied together,
Me too.
laughter and emotions. It's a big emotion. It's emotions. And I
Yeah.
mean, I've laughed until I've cried, and I've cried till I've laughed. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Same. Same.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just talking today about it, or when this weekend, I was talking about but my first dog Maisie taught me about, which I didn't expect that with grief. And I never expected it at all because I thought when I put her down, it was traumatic. But then I thought it was going to be horrendous, and it was not at all. And she came right back to me 5 minutes afterwards in my truck I was driving. She came back to me, and I didn't grieve for her one day. And I was like, why? I thought I'd be grieving, and it's like I didn't grieve, and I know the reason why I didn't grieve because I lived every moment possible with her. I lived
Yeah.
at every possible moment. So
Yes,
I
you
lived
did.
fully. I live fully with her. And
Mhm.
if we do that with our loved ones, and we live fully with them, and we do the best we can, then we've lived a
Right.
good life with them, and we've nothing to
Right.
grieve. We've done the best we can. And that's
Right.
all that was asked of us.
Well, this question kind of goes with what you just said. Kathy Berkspawn says, "How can we get close to those on the other side?"
Well, number one, stop thinking about them because then you block it. And I answer this every day. It's just you have to take time to surrender, to be quiet, to quiet the mind, and to put yourself in a space where you really quiet your mind. I always go with the breathing technique of breathing in three through your nose, exhale the mouth five, and I sit and do that, and I do it in a closet, right? And I'll do that for several moments. Then I just put myself in that lovely space of relaxation, and I just pay attention to my heart space. And I ask them if they're around to please come in and to give me a sign, to give me a thought, to give me a feeling. And it's up to me to really open up and listen. It's not up to them to force them to do that. If they have free will, they don't have to come to us. But we have to give them this atmosphere and the space in order to
Right.
come through to us. But we have to control that in that we have to let go and release it and let them come in. Don't force them.
So true. Okay, Diana Ryan says, "Reading about the afterlife has made me so much happier and relaxed about
Right?
life."
Right?
Bravo. Oh, Diana,
Once you
I
realize
so
there's no
appreciate you
death, you
saying
can
that.
begin to live life fully. Once
Right.
you realize there's no death, you can begin to live life fully.
Exactly. It's not because we know things are going to happen. I feel like we need to do a book on human 101 or something because before you incarnate, ahead of time things are going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to have trauma, you're going to have betrayal, you're going to have all these things.
It's part
But
of the human
it's
being.
part
It's
of the
part of being
human
human,
condition.
right? Yeah.
Exactly. But the
Yeah.
other side of that is laughter and joy. And I look at the absurdity of life, and that cracks me up, the absurdity. And
And the importance people place on certain things that are ridiculous.
oh, that are
That's like,
ridiculous.
well, I got to tell you, outside my window here, it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. I mean, Kelly. When you come to my house, you have to see this. My brother was over here, and I'm like, "Is that what I think it is?" I'm looking out the window. I'm like, "What is that? Is it? Is it really?" And it's a slide. I'm like, "Is that really a big water slide? Is that a water slide?"
No. I mean, the
And I'm sorry,
neighbors put in a
it looks
water
like a
slide?
freeway. It looks like a freeway. Okay, that big. That big. It's not that big. And it looks like a freeway. And it's a big, huge, it's the size of someone's house. It's a huge water. Like, who would put a water slide in that? And then it lights up at night. It lights up at night. Just saying.
Okay. Well,
It's
next
like
time I'm
water
there,
world.
I
And I'm like, what?
oh my God.
It
Okay,
goes to,
this
under that category of a lot of dollars and no sense.
you're right.
It cracks me
They'll
up.
let you slide down that.
I guess that brings the fun. Great. But it's
Oh
just like,
my
wow.
God, that's so crazy, James. So Tempo Blackstar says, "How do you stay cheerful when at every turn you're beat down, like the universe is pushing it all to the edge?" Well, how do you stay cheerful when every turn you beat down? For me, again, I look at the absurdity of everything, and oops, and I continue. I keep going. I just keep going. I don't let
I
anything get me down.
I don't take it so seriously.
I
I
don't
mean, I've
either,
had
James.
I've had the worst times. I mean, getting to New York this now was pretty wild getting
Yeah.
there. And I've had days where they've been stuck on airplanes and
Oh,
weirdest things have happened with luggage
yeah.
and some of bizarre stuff. But what can you do? You gotta laugh at it because what are you gonna do? What are
Well,
you
I
gonna do?
know. I know what you and I would
You can't
do.
be a victim.
We would sit
You
down
have
and
a
have a
martini.
martini. Yeah. I'll never forget my mother before she died. She said, "Don't forget, if you need a drink, a good martini will get you through these things."
I agree with that one. I agree with
It's
that
the
one.
truth.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, here we go." And that sometimes, is what happens. I mean,
Yeah, it's so funny. A friend of mine and I, we went and had we were going to go to someone's uh, well, it was a stranger's kind of place. And it was a boat, We're on a boat, and we never really met this person. We heard about it, and we thought, before we go, and it was about 11 o'clock in the morning, and we're walking toward it, and we both looked at each other and said, and as spontaneously we looked at each other and said, we should have a shot of tequila. And I don't drink tequila, nor does she. I was like, what? And we had a shot of tequila. Thank God we had a
Right.
shot of tequila because
Right.
we needed it at the. It was a
Right.
weird situation.
Sometimes that helps
was
to
so
just
funny.
bridge the time.
It makes it easier.
It
It was so
does.
funny. Yeah, it was.
Okay, James, here's a good question. This is from Amy Salisbury Martin. What is the funniest thing Spirit has had you say as a medium?
Oh wow, Kelly, you go
Oh,
first.
no. You go.
Well, there were a couple things. And the other night, actually, something came in which was pretty funny about a woman. But I do remember. Well, there were a couple things, and it has to do with undergarments. And it was a woman who said his mother came through, and I said it because I'm just, and the mother said something as if you're wearing her brassiere, and and I had to say it in front of an audience, and I had to say it in a way that no one was offended by it. But she said, but unfortunately, you had to take it down a couple of sizes. You had to redo the size because you weren't big enough for it to fit. And I forget how exactly the wording was. I had to be very careful how I worded that, but that was probably one of the ones. Another one was a woman who was wearing her husband's underwear pants, shorts,
Oh,
and then that came through, and that was
that would be a big one.
Yeah.
I had one where a husband's, I don't even think I can get this out, said, I never met this woman, by the way. I have no idea who this woman was. And the husband who had passed away said, he likes your new face.
I've had something like that.
Okay.
I've had something
I
like
almost died
that.
laughing, and I felt funny saying it, but it just came. I said, "All right, here we go." And fortunately, she said this to me. She said, "Well, he certainly left me enough money to do that." They both had such a good sense of humor. It really, really was a great reading. But
I someone similar, and I've had similar things where someone said, I think it was to the wife. The husband would say, I don't recognize you. You have a different look. What does that mean? Goes, well, I had my eyes done or something. Oh, it was your hair. Or the mother's come to the door and said, you've changed your hair. Now put it back to the original. Yeah, I've had that happen.
Oh, I've had that one too. Oh, that's so
I've had
funny.
one where it was funny. I had one in the audience. Remember where I don't know who came through and said, I think it was a husband saying it to his wife. And I think he said, I really like that dress, but you're wearing it inside out. And she was wearing it inside out, and the tag was inside out. But she was in the audience. It was funny.
That's really funny.
Funny thing.
Oh my God. Oh, I think people are liking this, James. Robin Kane Kirby says people need to stop being so serious about life, have more fun, and stop caring about what everyone else is going to think. Because, James, you always say,
what other people think of you is none of your business. It's true.
Exactly.
And it holds us back. It holds us back from being ourselves. It holds us back from being ourselves because we're worried about what other people think. So we give away our power to other people instead of keeping it intact within ourselves. That's really what it's about.
Yes. Oh, this is a serious question from Lynn Brun. She says, James, when you meditate in the closet, are you sitting in the
closet years ago? But yes.
Are you sitting in the dark?
I am.
Okay.
Actually, I'm sitting in the dark, and I do that. And the reason I can sit in a closet, and I walk in a closet I can sit in. And the reason I do it is because of noise outside. I don't want any distractions. Right. So any place you can go where there's no distractions, and I put the light off, and I have no windows in there, and I really can't hear much. And that's really what it's about. It's about just really being with yourself. So if you hear outside noise, it's difficult. So it's really a place where you can go with no distractions.
James, I'm curious. Have you ever had a dream where you wake up laughing?
Yeah, a lot. Or I've just come from a situation somewhere in probably the spirit world where we're all laughing our rear ends off. That was really funny.
Well, let's talk about that on the other side. They laugh a lot.
They laugh a lot. And I remember I remember once, it was really interesting. I helped Audrey Meadows pass over. And Audrey Meadows was
Audrey Meadows, the famous old-time actress.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, we were good friends, Audrey and I. She was a client of mine, became very good friends, and I helped her write her book that she wrote about the honeymooners. And
Oh.
yeah, and I still have a copy. And she was great. She said, "Would you please be with me when I pass over?" And I said, "Well, I go do what I could do." And years passed, about 2 years, and a friend of mine called me up and said she's in Cedar Sinai. And it's like I've talked to her for a while, and I told this story before here, but I went over there and I asked them where Audrey Six was. That was her name, Six last name. And they said, "Oh, we don't know anyone like that here," which of course then think, duh, celebrity, they wouldn't do that. And as if I was in a trance, I went across the street, pressed number 6 on the elevator, thinking celebrities are higher up. And I went up and I walked around all the way to the back of the floor to a nurse's station in the back, not knowing where I was going. And I asked the lady about Audrey Six. She goes, "Well, what she have?" I said, "She has cancer." She goes, "So that would be downstairs." So I walked around, I walked away. And wait a minute, let me check. That's such a strange name. Let me check. And she goes, "Oh, 6103. It's right here." So I went in and she was in a coma. And I went up to the nurse she had, her private nurse. I said, I need to help her over. She goes, "Who are you?" I said, "I'm her spiritual counselor." And she goes, "Okay, 5 minutes." So she left the room. And Audrey, I told Audrey it was time to go. It was okay to pass and so forth. And to make a long story short, I left the room and her head had moved. And
Mm.
that night was the night I went to go to New York to sell Talking to Heaven, my first book. Okay, it was in February, and I remember I was going into I landed at 6. It was a red eye. I landed at 6 o'clock. Got in the hotel in Midtown Manhattan, and I'm freezing. I walk in the hotel lobby, and a homeless person walks up to me and said, "It's a shame about that honeymooner, isn't it? She just died." And then, so again, so there are a couple of things that happened.
Wow.
And then about 2 months later, I remember I had a dream, and it was a crossover. I call them crossovers. It was so real. And there was a dais, and she was in the dais being honored, and I was in the back of this audience, and everyone was laughing, laughing, laughing. And she made contact with me, and she said, "Thank you, my love. Thank you, my love." And that was
Oh.
it. We laughed, and then I woke up.
Oh, wow. That's the
Yeah.
best kind. That's
Yeah, it
the
was
best
great.
kind.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's great. Great, great.
Wow.
Yeah, whenever you see spirit, you have that those I call them crossovers, because the conscious mind doesn't remember it, doesn't retain that when you come back to the physical. It doesn't remember it all the time. But boy, aren't those the best types of connections? You
Yeah,
know?
that's the best. Yeah. Oh my
And
God.
Kelly, talking about spirit communication, I know with you and with me, the spirit people, the best for me, the spirit that I bring to the best are the ones that have a sense of humor. And the reason why that is because the spirit world will use what's in the medium's mindset. We'll use what the makeup of that medium is.
Yeah.
And I bring through people as you'd bring it through who are very much like me. And that
Mhm.
I always bring through the people with a great sense of humor, who doesn't take things so seriously, have a good time. And that's my best connections usually are those
Right.
type of people. And
Right.
I let them when they come through, I actually become them. I'm allowed to just let myself be them, and they will often say, "Oh my God, your mannerisms are just like him," or "You speak like him," or they say that. So it happens. And
Right.
laughter really is a healing. It really is wonderful.
Oh, it's so healing. It's so healing for everybody. Um, so they're loving that coming out of the closet conversation. Um,
Yes, yes. Sylvia Brown. I see. Kelly and James, were you fans of Sylvia Brown? I knew Sylvia Brown very well. Yeah, I was at shows with Sylvia Brown. I helped Sylvia Brown get her first book deal in Penguin Books, which was years ago, back in 1996. And I had my first book, Talking to Heaven, come out, and then I had the president of Claire Ferraro, the president then at Penguin. She called me up and she said, "Would you mind if we do a book by another psychic?" And I said, "Well, it depends on the type of book and who it is, whatever it is." And she said, "Well, her name is Sylvia Brown." And I knew Sylvia Brown from my TV show The Other Side. And I really wasn't familiar totally with her work. I knew at one time she was a very good medical intuitive one time. That was her
oh,
expertise.
I didn't know that about
Oh,
her.
yeah, that was her expertise. She was actually that was the best
Okay.
part of Sylvia Brown was a medical intuitive. And every once in a while, she'd get some really good hits on psychic stuff. A lot of times, she was not good. She was not accurate, I got to say. And so what happened was, yeah, I got her first book deal on that show. And yeah, so then we did Larry King together a lot. And she said some things that, I wouldn't agree with integrity wise with certain things, but everyone's different. So she's come back after she passed over and she apologized to me, for certain things that were done, which I'm not going to get into. But
Yeah.
it was very interesting that she did that. And I expected she would have, by the way. And she did. She came back and she said, "I'm sorry I behaved a certain way to you." Because I don't go into the details of it, but she came to me and I was telling an associate, a friend of ours, in the same similar this realm. And I said, "She's going to come back. She's going to apologize." And she did. And when did she come back and apologize? When I was folding my underwear in the laundry room. That's when she said,
Because she could get your attention.
Exactly. I
I
was doing
mean,
something mundane, and she was able to come through, and I could
right.
hear her very
Well,
clearly.
but that's
Coming through.
actually true. If you're doing something
It's
mundane
true.
and they actually can interrupt that. But that's very funny. Did she
I
have
said,
that
okay,
voice?
got it, Sylvia. Thank you. I appreciate you coming back. Thank you very much.
Wait, did she have that voice?
Well, I was and Larry King was in there, and she's next to me, and I had to come on the show with because he wanted someone else, and we had Randy, the skeptic man, who's since
Oh
passed
yeah.
over. Like say Randy and her together now. Would it
Oh,
be
yeah, that's funny.
$1 million challenge? That whole fiasco.
God.
And oh, I wouldn't take that. She goes, I wouldn't take that. He's a scammer. I'm like, okay. I said, Sylvia, you got to watch your hip on your right side because what's the matter with it, James? And I said, well, your right side is not doing well, and it wasn't. She found out later on it wasn't doing good. But she was a trip. She was something else, I'll tell you. I did a Howard Stern show once with
What
Sylvia.
was that like?
Well, Howard Stern show. For years, Howard wanted me to be on the show, and I said I wouldn't do it because I just didn't believe in what he was putting out there. And then it finally hit me. I thought, well, what good am I? And how am I authentic if I even walk my talk? So
Yeah.
I've got to go on the show to walk my talk because otherwise, what are my words worth? So I went to New York and I went in the show. It was 5:30 in the morning, and I got up at my hotel and I prayed this. I prayed to Saint Michael the Archangel. I said, "Please help me, just in
Oh,
case."
I bet. I bet
And
you were.
I immediately became aware of a being of light, blonde hair, yeah, with a sword. I went, "Phew, you're protected." And Howard, I went to Howard's into the studio, and I went onto the set right before we started the radio broadcast. And he said on his way to his panel, he goes, I don't believe in what you do, Capricorn.
Yeah.
And I said, and Kelly, this is the first time this ever come out of my mouth, and I don't know how it did, but I said, do you really think I care what you think about me? And he loved me after that. He
I
loved me.
bet he did.
He loved me after that. So,
Oh my God.
yeah.
Wow. Wow. That's
Interesting.
very
I could write a
interesting.
book about all these
You
things that
really
happened.
could. Oh my
I
God.
a lot of them, a lot of celebrity stories.
Oh, but that's a good one.
That's a good one. That was a good one. Yeah, that was a good one. Thank Michael the Archangel helped me.
Oh my God. Gotta love him.
Well, you
Um,
got to look back if you can look back at your life and laugh and
yeah.
see what you left this world, and if you left it a little bit lighter with some humor, and that's what I think. Listen, that isn't a very interesting story. Here's another
Okay.
celebrity story for you. Very, very interesting. I think I ever told you this. When Lucille Ball died, and I knew Lucille
Okay.
Ball not personally, but I knew people who she knew
Okay.
very close to. We used to play at her house, backgammon at her house in Beverly Hills all the time. And I loved her sense of humor. I loved that show. I grew up in that show. I love Lucy. And after she died, I was a little sad. And because she was a Leo and it would affect the heart, and she passed the heart condition. And I was a little sad. I was in my house in Laguna Beach. I live in Laguna. And I remember it was like the little rose garden I had, if you remember that. And I was
I
walking
sure
around,
do.
and I thought of her, and I asked her, and I just thought of her, and she came right to me. And I said, you were just so lovely. And it's wonderful. She goes, James. She goes, James. She said, and I said, you were a healer. She goes, yes, a healer. Many comedians are healers. And she said, I came to heal people with comedy. I came to heal the world with my comedy. That was what I used. That was kind of like she said, kind of my tool that I used to heal was comedy. That was Lucille
What?
Ball. See,
Still, I have chills. That's amazing.
and she said something which other celebrities have come through, and I've had a lot of celebrities come through, including Marilyn Monroe. And she said something which she, again, like a lot of them say, which is, I'm not that personality that people make me. I'm different than what they humans make me. People make me that. I'm not that. I'm something very different. And I understand that. And Lucy said, she says, I'm not what people make me out to be. I don't want to be. That's not who I am. I'm me. And she says, I chose to come back and heal people through comedy. And that was all she said. Really
But
interesting.
how
And then
brilliant.
Marilyn Monroe came through. When she came through, she said to me, and this was years ago when I did a reading for Susan Strauss. Remember Susan Strasberg?
I do.
Yeah,
Yes.
Susan Strasberg was a client of mine, and
Wow.
she was Lee Strasberg's daughter, who was a
Yeah.
very famous director. And she wanted to write a book about Marilyn, which I think she has. Marilyn and Me, I think it's called. I think it's out there. She's since passed, Susan. But I did a read with her, and nothing came through. Nothing from Marilyn came through to the very, very end of the session. And I said, "There's a Norma here." Now I didn't know her name was Norma. I just didn't know her name was Norma. I didn't know that. And she said, "That's her." And I said, "Okay." And then Norma Jean, right? And I said, and all she said was, "I wish they, meaning the humans, would pay homage to themselves instead of to me." She felt
Oh,
like
Wow.
Yeah, and she was killed. She was killed. Yeah.
Wow.
She was
Oh,
okay with that. I mean, she forgave. It was funny. She forgave those that did that, and that she felt that she created a certain circumstance where she was shoved into a corner. There was no way to get out of it, and she took responsibility for some of that. So
wow.
God bless her.
Wow. That's
Interesting,
amazing. Really interesting.
interesting
Wow.
stuff.
Wow. I mean,
You never know, Kelly. You
no,
never know.
you never know. But I mean, both of those, Lucille Ball and Marilyn Monroe, changed the world.
Totally.
They opened up the world in so many areas.
And
Wow.
the thing about comedy, which is really like you mentioned before, is when people can share that perspective of what makes things funny,
Yes.
and they can share with that. Like for instance, I was going to be doing some stand-up comedy because there's some such ridiculous things out there, and to look at it to everyone and say, "Wow, that is crazy. Why do we take that so seriously?" And Richard Pryor was a great comedian.
Oh yeah.
You know, he,
He was amazing.
he was amazing, and George
Mhm.
Carlin was my favorite. George
Oh, I
Carlin,
love George Carlin.
I mean, come on, right? They don't
Oh,
make
he
that
was
anymore.
so funny. I love Jerry Seinfeld. I think he's funny.
He's a genius. I mean,
Genius.
comic geniuses without a doubt. Yeah,
Yeah.
Seinfeld. We never get tired of Seinfeld for
You
sure.
never get to I never get tired of Larry David. I mean, just his point of view is so funny to me.
Larry David. One must Larry David. So Larry David is exactly Larry David, which I think is
Right?
a great thing.
Yeah.
I met Larry at Ted Danson's house, and did Ted did my movie with him.
Right.
And we're at Mary's birthday. It was a big party for Mary, and it was her birthday party. It was a big deal. I remember Melanie Griffith comes in, and Mary brings her and goes, "This is Meg Ryan." I go, "Hello," and Meg had lots of work
Some
done,
work done. Yeah.
and she didn't care if people knew that. I'm like, "She wears black and blue," and she did. I guess they all know these things. I know,
Yeah.
but I remember I'm in line in the buffet line, and we're dishing out some stuff each person, and this man is in front of me, and he can't make up his mind, and he goes, "Should I have the potatoes or should I have the hot dogs? I'm not sure." And it was Larry David, and I'm like, "Well, Larry, let's see. If you have the hot dog," I did a whole Seinfeld thing because I knew it was Larry David. Like, now, if you do the other one, the calories might be a little bit more than you could. It was funny. It was great. It was great.
Oh,
Another good friend of mine, is a very good friend of mine, is Cindy Williams of Laverne and Shirley.
that's right.
And we've had some really fun time. And she's a
Yeah.
natural comedian. Great.
Oh, yeah. She
And
loves
very
you.
spiritual. Yeah, we've known
And
each other
she's
for a
very
long
spiritual.
we've known each other a long time. Yeah, long.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
Goldie Hawn is another one I love. Goldie Hawn is a friend of mine. She's a great comedian and funny and yet
yeah.
very smart, very bright.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Very
So, James, you have an event on Friday.
This Friday, I have a message event. This Friday night, I'll be doing messages for people here on Zoom, and feel free to go on vampprog.com, my website. There it is, right there, 4530 Healing Messages from Spirit, and they're pretty great for everybody that comes on the site. It's not just several people might get the specific message. I really got to stress that it's really for everybody in the room. It really does
Oh,
work.
if you get a message, it's for everybody. Yeah.
Always, don't you think, Kelly?
I do, because some of the messages that people get are so profound that and the whole audience is listening and they're moved and they're changed and they're forever changed. When they
True.
attend one of your events, you are forever changed.
It's true. Carol Burnett, someone mentioned, is another one great one. Carol Burnett, great.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we know Carol Burnett.
Yeah,
Great
she's
lady.
terrific.
Yeah, so please join me Friday night for the event. That'd be great. Some tickets are still available. It's not that big a group, so come on along.
Right. Come on along. And then join me, please, on I have an event coming up too.
Part one.
Part 1 is June 11th, part 2 is July 23rd, and part 3 is September 10th. And if you've ever been interested in Atlantis, the lost civilizations of Lemuria, please join us because I'm working with Prajna Avalon, who's an extraordinary healer, and we're going to be doing a 3-part event on Lemuria and Atlantis. So if you're an empath or a medium or a psychic or just somebody who's known they have had a past life there, you probably have. Please join us.
Yeah. Insights.
Yeah,
it's
going to be
more. Yeah, this lifetime, Kelly.
I know.
In Tahiti.
We sure did. You took me swimming there, which was
Right.
Really amazing because I had a fear of
Snorkeling.
water, and James is like, "Here, here, take my hand. Here we go." And we went swimming.
That's right. When snorkeling.
We
That's
went
right.
snorkeling. It was really amazing. So Anne Margaret says, James, what happened to Naomi Judd, who took her life 2 days ago? Rest in
I
peace.
didn't know that she passed. I honestly, I
Yeah.
didn't know. Kelly told me this earlier.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
Anne Margaret, she had, major depressive disorder, major depression, it's often called. Clinical depression is another term of it. And it's really becomes a medical condition at this point. And, it's one of the hardest things ever when you have it it's so in your system. She had trauma from the time she was born. She had trauma. And
is that the mother or is that one of the daughters?
she was the mother.
Who
And,
was the
it's
mother?
what made it so, I guess, such a surprise is if you look at it as from a therapist standpoint, you look at it and you say, you always look to see, does the person have a future plan? And she had not only a future plan, James, she was receiving a reward of the Country Music Award the next day. And she had a tour planned in 3 weeks. She was going on tour. So, so that normally that's something you look at. Are they hopeless? No, she had a future plan. And so you look at different things when somebody is suicidal. But I think I'm guessing, and I don't know this, and I'm certainly not the therapist here, but my thought is that it may have been too much for her. It may have been, everything might have been overwhelming for her.
And astrologically too, Kelly, with their astrological.
It was on the eclipse, James.
So, because I
So-
lost a friend's grandson, the same thing.
That's right. That's right. I mean, these eclipses are, serious business, and God bless her. That's
She's in a better
really a
place
tough
now,
one.
for sure.
Yeah, she was such a nice lady, though. So James, Patricia, wait, hold on a second. Those who take their
Okay.
lives due to depression still laugh at the spirit side. You bet they do, right,
Oh,
James?
you
Of
bet
course
they
they
will.
do.
I'm gonna go with some joy.
Okay, we've got joy, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody.
Okay.
Thanks, Renee.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
You've been listening to Both Sides Now and Beyond, featuring spiritual medium and master teacher James Van Prague and spiritual medium and psychotherapist Kellee White.
That was great. Maybe we changed some lives.
And maybe opened up some minds.
Which way do I turn?
Right. I mean left.